I've seen you again in many different settings, and the one thing's always consistent with you. It's your genuine desire to help people.
Yeah.
Personally, one of my favorite memories goes back to the National Fantasy Football Convention back in 2018 in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm standing out in the crowd, and you're up on stage putting together a mock draft with all the athletes, and you see me in the crowd. You gesture for me to come up on stage, and then you proceed to anoint me as the honorary commissioner of the event. And I feel like it's just a great example of how you're always just looking to help people. Every time I see you, like at an event, you're one-on-one with someone, listening to them, sharing your wisdom, insight. It's, in front of the camera, behind the camera, it's all the same. Where does your passion to help others come from? And was there someone along the way in your professional journey that instilled that in you?
Yeah, so there's a few answers to that question. Thank you. That's important to me. So I take that as a great compliment. It's important to me. Number one is, I think, just my father, right? I mean, and my mother, and just how I was raised. I was always raised to believe, like, if you can be helpful, you should be. It's the right thing to do, and try to help people that are less fortunate than you. Try to help people that, just be a good person, right? It's just good karma. Put that out into the universe. And so I grew up with that example. My parents are, thankfully still alive and still very active in the community, and they donate a ton of money. They donate a ton of time. And my mother has been, a chair of the United Way, and she's on many boards, many charitable boards, as is my father. And so they do a lot for their community. So that's the first one. Secondly is just throughout my career, there have been people that have helped me. Like, I haven't been able to get to where I was. There was somebody that advocated for me at ESPN. There was somebody that advocated for me at NBC. There've been, you could ask me about any particular thing that I've done, and I could say yes. Like, I didn't get to that place alone. Somebody helped me. Somebody gave me advice. Somebody advocated for me. Somebody pushed for me. Somebody told me about the opportunity. No journey is alone. So part of me is also wanting to give back, right? People helped me, pay it forward, right? So somebody helped me, and then I'm going to help some people, and then hopefully they help other people in the future. And the other thing is just sort of the right thing to do is such a cliche, but it sort of is. I will tell you, so one of the investors of Fantasy Life is a guy named George Pine. And so George Pine is the CEO of Bruin Capital, which has well over $1 billion in funding available to it. It's a market cap of over $1 billion. It's got many investments. And George Pine is the former, I want to say, COO of NASCAR, and I believe he's the former president of IMG. Immensely successful businessman, big family guy as well. And I've gotten to know him over the last handful of years, and I'm an advisor. Actually, I'm honored. I'm an advisor for Bruin Capital, so I'm on their advisory board. And George personally is invested in Fantasy Life. And the first time I met with George, the first time we got introduced by a mutual friend, and we had lunch together, and we really hit it off. But what was interesting is the way he started his lunch. And since now that I know George, I've been in other meetings with George with other people. And what I found is that the way he opened our lunch is not an accident. It's how he lives his life. And so we sit down to lunch. And so here's this guy, right? And I'm me. And I sit down to him. And the first thing George says to me, he goes, "How can I help?" That's his first question. That's always his first question. How can I help? And he means it. He's genuine about that. And so to answer your question, and so I really eye-opening moment for me. And so I've instinctually, to your point, Kevin, always tried to help and it's important to me to be loyal to my team and the men and women that have worked for me, with me, and that kind of stuff. And I've tried really hard to promote people within the fantasy industry, personally, privately, professionally. But I just think it's important to help. And you never know when you might need help. And so it's good when it doesn't feel like you're asking for something, when it feels like it's a mutual relationship. And so that's important to me. And so I try to just, when I meet people, how can I help? Let me know how I can help. And if I can, I will.